What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we are going to be grading every single head coaching hire that has happened so far. Now, obviously, not all of the openings have been filled. Actually, only one of them hasn't been filled yet, and that's the Commanders. And to end off the video, I'm going to talk about my thoughts on the Commanders job, who I think is going to get it. But yeah, like I said, we're going to be talking about all of the so far head coaching hires and grading them. But before I get into all that, if you could do anything you can to help grow the channel, please like, subscribe, comment, hit that bell so you don't miss a video. I'm trying to post a lot more on YouTube. I've actually been pretty good about it. If you haven't seen my past two videos, my two mock drafts, I did the Packers full 7-round mock draft, and did my first full first-round mock draft of the season. So if you go check those out, that'd be greatly appreciated as well. But without further ado, let's hop right into it. The New England Patriots, obviously, Bill Belichick is gone. It's the end of an era in New England. He is somebody who is hard to replace, but they decided to replace him with Gerard Mayo. Okay, Gerard Mayo was hired one day after the Patriots parted ways with Belichick. We all knew this was going to happen. He was Belichick's guy, and a firing or I guess a mutual parting of ways like this, it's going to be whoever the leaving coach wants. And in this case, that was Gerard Mayo. Mayo, he was obviously played for the Patriots. He has been on the coaching staff since 2019. He's been their linebacker coach, but he's a defensive minded guy, obviously. That's what the Patriots like. That's what the Patriots are about. And he's Belichick's guy. And so I'm inclined to like this because he's Belichick's guy and because Belichick is somebody who has proven that he can coach in the NFL and that he can win in the NFL and win at pretty much any level. And so I don't see any reason not to trust this hire. I'm going to give it a solid B because we don't know what Gerard Mayo is as a head coach. We don't know he's a head coach. He doesn't have much experience calling plays defensively or offensively. And so we'll see how he kind of works out. Is kind of what will assumingly be the next CEO head coach of this team, not really running a particular part of the team, but really just kind of overseeing everything, obviously leaning a bit more defensive. Maybe he will even call defensive plays. Moving on to the Raiders. Now, the Raiders fired Josh McDaniels in November, and Antonio Pierce then stepped in as the interim head coach, and the league and the team instantly fell in love with him. He was very clearly the right choice, which is surprising because the Raiders aren't really known for making the right choice. Hiring Josh McDaniels in the first place is a great example of that. Antonio Pierce, though, is a fantastic choice. He was obviously brought on, like I said, as the interim in November. Should have been made the permanent head coach a lot earlier than he was, but I'm willing to chalk that up to them. Just wait until the end of the season, wait until the offseason. They fired their general manager. They've brought in Tom Telesco. Antonio Pierce is here now, and he completely took the Raiders in a different direction. They didn't necessarily play like fantastic football. They obviously had their moments. Obviously, that huge game against the Chargers, I think, came under Antonio Pierce, if I'm not mistaken. That just monstrosity of a game from their offense and from their defense. Pierce is a big culture guy. The players love him. The players want to play for him. And Vegas has not had a coach like that in a long time. We think about their history in Oakland and in Vegas in the recent years. They have not had a coach in a long time where the players have actively wanted to play for them. You can tell when you look at Devontae Adams and when you look at people that the shift in their mood and the shift in their attitude on and off the field with Antonio Pierce running the show it was too much of a difference to not hire Antonio Pierce. Okay. They went 5-4 under him. They had the Christmas win over the Chiefs, which is a fantastic game. The defense stepped up. Okay, they had the fewest points allowed per game since Antonio Pierce took over. They had the most defensive touchdowns, the fewest penalties after Pierce took over. I mean, he showed everything that they needed to see. Very, very deserving on the side. I'm giving this an A. I don't want to give it an A plus because he is kind of a small sample size guy, but there really is no reason to dislike this hire. And like I said, he's a culture guy. Want to play for him. The fans love him. The team loves him. There just isn't much to dislike about this. Moving on to Tennessee, a job that I actually really like, or liked obviously before it was filled. I mean, Mike Vrabel was fired at the end of the season. Surprising for sure. I think a lot of it comes down to him just not being on the same page as the front office. So when it tends to happen, the front office isn't going anywhere, so the coach kind of does. I'm happy for Mike Vrabel. He wasn't in a situation where he was really happy. He didn't really feel like he was getting the amount of sway that he thought he should be and everything. And he just wasn't on the same page as the front office. That's what it boils down to. The coach is usually going to go in that situation. Obviously, they had 4 consecutive winning seasons under Vrabel in 2018. They had bad seasons these past couple of seasons. I don't know. It's tough to really understand why exactly you'd fire a coach who's as good as Vrabel. I mean, this dude had the team as the 1 seed when they were just filled with injuries. They were without AJ Brown. Ryan Tannehill was his quarterback. I have my own feelings on Ryan Tannehill. I think he's terrible. You could have your own feelings. Maybe you don't think he's terrible, but he had a Ryan Tannehill led team without AJ Brown, who has shown what he is. With Derrick Henry being in and out of the lineup with some injuries, but mostly being there, but still being in and out as the 1 seed in the AFC, which we all know how tough that's been ever since Patrick Mahomes took the reins in Kansas City. And they replaced him with Brian Callahan, who the offensive coordinator in Cincinnati. He obviously was behind the offense that led to this resurgence that led to them going to a Super Bowl, and that is a great thing. He does not call the plays, but he's a super big part of the offense. He's a super big part of the offense's success, and he's been with a couple different teams. He's been with the Broncos. He's worked with like a bunch of different really good quarterbacks: Stafford, Carr, Burrow. Carr obviously is debatable. And now it's looking like he's going to start developing Will Levis. I think it's a good hire. I'm going to give it a B plus. I think it's a little bit better than the Gerard Mayo hire because I see instant success when I look at Brian Callahan's resume. He was leading an offense while not calling the plays. He was designing and leading an offense that went to the Super Bowl. Right, Gerard Mayo's been a linebackers coach, so I'm giving it a little bit of the edge over Gerard Mayo. But I still like this hire. I'm going to give it a B plus. I think he might also bring Bill Callahan, his dad, with him, who's one of the best O-line coaches in the game. That would be sick, especially for Tennessee, who tends to struggle in that department. So overall, love it. Now we come to what, in my opinion, is the biggest hire in the entire cycle. After firing Brandon Staley in December, the Chargers finally got their man in Jim Harbaugh. Harbaugh just accomplished everything he wanted to in Michigan at the right time. Right before he goes to the NFL, he goes on this run with Michigan, gets them the 1 seed in the playoffs. They beat Alabama. They beat Saban in what ended up being Saban's last head coach of the team. They went in. They beat a very, very hot Washington team. And Harbaugh, I mean, his success speaks for itself. He was 144-42 in Michigan, 3 Big Ten championships, Michigan's first national title since the 90s. Consistently was able to beat Ohio State. It's a big thing for a Michigan coach. He's been with the 49ers for 4 years. He was the coach of the year in his first season, won a Super Bowl. Sorry, lost a Super Bowl to the Ravens. Sorry, I keep forgetting. I always mix up who won that one. He was 41-19-1 in the regular season. I mean, the success speaks for itself. The dude is a culture guy. Players like him. Ownership likes him for the most part. He can be hot headed, but honestly, I really like Jim Harbaugh, and I really like this hire. This is an A plus. I think he's the perfect guy to come in and work with Justin Herbert. I think he's the perfect guy to come in and work with a team that was kind of deflated playing for a coach like Brandon Staley. So there isn't much else to say about this one. His success collegiately and in the NFL, obviously getting to a Super Bowl is an accomplishment on its own, even though they didn't win it. His success speaks for itself, having a winning record in the NFL and having a winning record by as big of a margin as he does is something to really be proud of. And so I definitely like what I'm seeing for the Jim Harbaugh hire. I don't think there's any reason to doubt this. It's an A plus. The Carolina Panthers fired Frank Reich on November 27th and just recently replaced him with Dave Canales, offensive coordinator for the Bucs, but also a quarterback coach who revitalized Geno Smith's career. He was with the Seattle quarterbacks coach, and he was a big part of Russell Wilson and his success. He was a big part of Geno Smith's revitalization, and he comes in for the Bucs and does the exact same thing for Baker. He was in Seattle. Geno Smith steps in. He's a guy who really had never played good football in his career, at least consistently. And everybody was writing this team off. They go and they make the playoffs with Geno Smith. He has the best season of his career by far. He plays like a top 10 quarterback in the league, and that a lot of it is attributed to Dave Canales and his work as the quarterback's coach. And now, obviously, that he is the OC of the Bucs. He comes in. Baker does the exact same thing. Baker, somebody who people had kind of written off, had bounced around to a couple different teams. Nobody really wanted him. He comes in, he gets named the starter in Tampa, and he just has, again, one of the best, if not, I'm pretty sure it was the best season of his career as a starter. They make the playoffs and obviously lose in the wild card, no, they didn't, did they? I'm completely, but they did not. They didn't. They literally No, they did to the Lions. I'm tripping. I'm sorry. But yeah, I mean, they come in and they play a good game. No, they didn't lose in the wild card. I am tripping so hard. They beat the Eagles. Man, I am just all over the place. I'm sorry. And yeah, and so they come in and they beat the Eagles, which that's a hard thing to do. And Baker played really well in that game. And again, a lot of that was Dave Canales. And now they have Bryce Young, a guy who people are already starting to write off, even though he just finished his rookie season in the NFL. People are starting to write this dude off. He actually played some pretty decent football down the stretch, and so there's no reason to really doubt that Dave Canales can't do for these guys what he did for Bryce Young. I like the hire. I'm giving this hire an A because of his proven success working with quarterbacks, his proven success as the offensive coordinator as the Bucks, getting them to a good spot with the offense, with an offense that people really didn't expect much out of. I think he played a big part in getting the run game going with Rashad White and doing what Rashad White did this year. Obviously, working with Baker is a big thing, and so yeah, I'm giving this an A. The Falcons did what everyone was screaming for them to do pretty much all season and fired Arthur Smith and replaced him very recently with Raheem Morris. Okay. Morris was Atlanta's interim head coach for 11 games after they fired Dan Quinn. Uh, he went 4-7, not given the full time job. Obviously, some interims work out, some don't. But they hired Arthur Smith instead of him, and now here he comes to replace Arthur Smith. And I think this one's going to stick. The Rams' defensive coordinator, meaning he's worked under McVay. That is a good sign, something that they want from their head coach, because while Raheem Morris is not at his core an offensive guy, he's been around one of the best offensive minds in football for the past couple of seasons, working under Sean McVay. That is a good thing. He's had to scheme against a Sean McVay offense, meaning he's had to scheme against a Kyle Shanahan offense and playing against the Niners twice a year. I mean, this guy is as built for the modern day NFL to run a defense as anybody. I mean, he's been had to play Shanahan twice a year for the past couple of years. He has to face McVay's offense in every single practice. I mean, if there's anybody who you can bring in to kind of know how to run a defense in the modern NFL with kind of the offenses that we're running that are really going to be the more dominant offenses, it's Raheem Morris. And so I think this is a great hire. Uh, he I mean, yeah, I this is good. I think this is good. For them overall. I mean, obviously they were in talks for Belichick, and they even gave him a second interview, and people were like, "Oh, this is it. Belichick's going to be a Falcon." He's not. People are mad about it, but Raheem Morris is younger, fits their timeline better. Gave him a big deal. I think he's going to be great for him. I'm giving this an A minus. And then finally, this head coaching vacancy just got filled on the day that I am filming this video. Pete Carroll was fired on January 10th, and they just replaced him today with Mike McDonald, the defensive coordinator from the Ravens. Um, Listen, I mean, he's good. They're giving him a 6-year deal. He's 36 years old. He's the youngest head coach in the NFL. He is one of the league's brightest defensive minds. He just led the Ravens number one defense in points allowed, sacks, takeaways. I mean, yeah, he is one of the brightest defensive minds in the NFL. He is young, and he has got a core to work with. Jordan Brooks, Uchenna Nwosu, Devon Witherspoon, Tariq Woolen. I mean, the list goes on. Derek Hall, who they just drafted this past season. I mean, he has got a young Draymond Jones. I mean, he's got a young core to work with. I love the core in Seattle defensively. I love how young that they are. They have some great cornerstone pieces. If there's anybody who can get the most out of those guys, it's Mike McDonald. We've seen him get the most out of a really, really highly touted safety in Kyle Hamilton. I don't see anything different happening here. I think the offense will be fine. Losing Shane Waldron is tough. I do not think they have filled their offensive coordinator position yet, and so that is something that they're going to have to be looking at. I do not think they filled their offensive coordinator position. They have not. They have not. But yeah, yeah, Seattle. It's a good job. I mean, Gino is still there. I'm not sure what McDonald means for the offense necessarily. Then they'll come up to who he picks as his coordinator. But overall, you got to love this hire defensively. I'm giving this a solid A. Overall, there hasn't been a head coach hiring this cycle that I've been like absolutely appalled at. I am a little curious as to why Bill Belichick doesn't have a job and might not even have a job because the finalists that have all been named for the Washington job, and none of them are him. And that's an interesting thing to keep an eye on. And so for Washington, I don't know. My thought was Bobby Slowick. I don't really have an answer right now. I think it might be Anthony Weaver. It's going to be Anthony Weaver or Dan Quinn. my last thing that I had to say for this video, Washington, just please don't hire Dan Quinn. We know how this story ends. Thank you so much for watching this video. Very, very, very much appreciated. And if you do everything you can to help grow the channel, please like, subscribe, comment, and turn on the notifications bell so you never miss a live stream, never miss a video. And we will see you guys next time.